The phone rang at midnight in a castle that hadn't seen sunlight in 300 years, and Hadrian Greymoore, who ruled the immortal kingdom beneath London with an iron fist and had not answered this particular line in 2 centuries, picked it up without knowing why. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was human, female, and breaking apart like glass under pressure. "Is this the crisis hotline?" He should have corrected her, should have hung up, should have done what he had done for 200 years, which was to let that phone ring into silence. A relic from a time when he still believed his voice could save anyone. Instead, he said yes, a lie, the first he had told in decades. Hadrian Greymoore, vampire king of the Northern Territories, did not lie, he commanded, he decreed. He executed justice with a swift hand and kept the vampire world hidden from human sight through power that made even the oldest of his kind bow their white-haired heads. But this woman on the phone, this stranger who had somehow reached a number that should not have connected to anything, sounded like she was standing on the same edge he had once watched someone he loved step off of, and his mouth shaped the word before his mind could stop it. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. "I don't know if I can keep going." Hadrian stood in his study, surrounded by maps of vampire territories and reports of border disputes that required his attention, and he closed his eyes. His hand tightened on the phone, the ancient plastic creaking in his grip. He had not spoken to a human in casual conversation since 1823. He had not tried to talk anyone through darkness since 1824, when his failure had been absolute and devastating, and had taught him that some voices, no matter how powerful, could not hold someone to this world. "Tell me what happened," he said, and his voice came out steadier than he felt, low and quiet and surprisingly gentle for a man who had ordered executions before breakfast. She laughed, a broken sound. "You're going to think it's stupid. I won't. My fiancé," she started, then stopped. "Ex-fiancé. I came home early from a work trip. He was in our bed with my sister. They'd been together for months. Everyone knew except me." Hadrian listened. He was good at listening. He had spent centuries in council meetings, in throne rooms, parsing the meanings behind words and the weight of silence. But this was different. This was a human woman whose world had just shattered, and she was talking to him like he was normal, like he was just another person on the other end of a helpline instead of a creature who could drain her dry before she finished her sentence. "I packed a bag," she continued. "I'm in a hotel now. A terrible one. The bathroom has mold and the bed smells like cigarettes, but I couldn't stay there. I couldn't look at them. And I don't have anyone to call. My parents are dead. My friends were all her friends first. I just needed to hear another voice." "You're hearing one now," Hadrian said. "What's your name?" He hesitated. Giving his name to a human was complicated. Names had power. Names created connections. "You can call me Hadrian. I'm Vivian," she said. "Vivian Harper, though I guess I should be grateful. I never changed my last name. At least I don't have to deal with that paperwork on top of everything else." She was trying to joke, trying to find footing in the wreckage. Hadrian knew that impulse. He had seen it in soldiers after battles, in survivors of purges, in the rare humans who stumbled into vampire business and lived to process the trauma. "Vivian," he repeated, and the name felt strange on his tongue. Human names always sounded so temporary. "You called because you needed someone to talk to. I'm here. I'll stay on the line as long as you need. Don't you have other calls?" Another lie, easier this time. "Not tonight." They talked until dawn began to threaten the horizon. She told him about her job as a research librarian, about the apartment she had loved and would now have to leave, about the small humiliations that hurt worse than the big betrayal because they proved how long she had been fooled. He listened, offering words when silence stretched too long, asking questions that kept her talking, kept her anchored. "I should let you go," Vivian finally said. "It's almost morning." Hadrian glanced at the window, where heavy blackout curtains kept the sun from turning him to ash. "Will you be all right?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but I'm still here. That's something." "It's everything," he said quietly. She was silent for a moment. Then, "Can I call again? Tomorrow night?" He should have said no. Should have told her to call the actual crisis line. Should have let this strange intersection of her wrong number and his inexplicable answer fade into nothing. "Yes," he said instead. Midnight. She hung up. Hadrian stood in his study as the last of his night ended, holding a phone that had not been used in 2 centuries, and wondered what he had just begun. The next night she called at midnight exactly. "Hadrian, I'm here." Vivian's voice sounded stronger, less like breaking glass and more like something that had already shattered and was trying to figure out its new shape. "I wasn't sure you'd answer. I thought maybe last night was just luck." "I said I would be here," Hadrian replied, settling into the high-backed chair behind his desk. He had spent the day handling vampire business, mediating a dispute between 2 ancient families over territory, signing off on new protocols for keeping human authorities from discovering a nest in Manchester. He had done it all with half his attention, the other half circling back to a human woman he had never seen. How was your day, she asked. The question was so normal, so human, that it caught him off guard. Busy. Yours? I found a new apartment. Well, a sublet, month to month. It's tiny, but it has good light. She paused. I went back to the old place to get my things while he was at work. My sister was there. She wanted to explain. Did you let her know? Vivian's voice hardened. I just took my books and my clothes and my grandmother's dishes and left. I don't owe her my time. Not anymore. Good, Hadrian said, and meant it. He had no patience for those who betrayed trust. In the vampire world, such betrayals ended in blood. In the human world, apparently, they ended in silent exits and divided furniture. Tell me about your day, Vivian said. The busy parts. I could use the distraction. Hadrian looked around his study at the evidence of his real life that he could not share. I spent most of it in meetings, settling disputes, making decisions that affect a lot of people. What kind of work do you do? He had prepared for this question. I manage a very old family estate. Territory, properties, people who depend on the family for their livelihoods. It's been passed down for generations. Not a lie exactly, just incomplete. That sounds lonely, Vivian observed. It can be. Do you have family? Friends? Hadrian thought of the vampire court, of the dozens of immortals who served him, feared him, respected him. Did he have friends? Perhaps. Companions, certainly. But no one he spoke to like this, with this kind of openness. Not in the way you mean. Then we're both alone, Vivian said softly. At least we can be alone together, if that makes sense. It did. More than she knew, they fell into a pattern. Every night at midnight, Vivian called. Every night, Hadrian answered. They talked for hours, the conversations ranging from her day to abstract questions about life, from her favorite books to philosophical discussions about trust and betrayal and starting over. She never asked to meet him. He never offered. The phone line between them felt safer than reality, a space where he could be almost human and she could rebuild herself without watching eyes. I went on a date, Vivian told him one night, 3 weeks into their calls. My coworker set me up with her brother. Hadrian felt something cold and sharp in his chest, jealousy, ridiculous. He had no claim on this woman, no right to care who she spent time with. How did it go? Terrible. She laughed. He spent the whole dinner talking about cryptocurrency and his ex-wife. I excused myself after the appetizer and went home. The cold thing eased. Not a love connection then. God, no. Besides, I'm not ready. I'm barely holding myself together most days. Adding another person to that mess seems cruel to both of us, she paused. Is that what I'm doing to you? Dumping my mess on someone who has to listen because it's your job? It's not my job, Hadrian said quietly. I'm here because I want to be. Why? The question he had been asking himself every night. Why did he answer? Why did he keep answering? Why had this stranger's voice become the best part of his centuries-long existence? Because when you called the first time, you reminded me of someone I couldn't help once, he admitted. And I wanted to do better this time. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. Did they die? The person you couldn't help? Yes, I'm sorry. Her voice gentled. But Hadrian, you've helped me, you have. I don't know if I would have made it through these weeks without you. He closed his eyes. In 200 years, he had not forgiven himself for failing to save his younger sister, newly turned vampire, unstable and frightened, who had walked into the sun rather than face eternity. He had talked to her all night that last night, had used every argument, every plea, every ounce of persuasion he possessed. It had not been enough. Her final words to him had been that not even his voice, which commanded armies and bent wills, could make her want to stay. He had not tried since, had buried himself in ruling in the cold mechanics of power, had stopped believing that talking could save anyone. But Vivian called every night, and she was still here. You helped yourself, Hadrian said. I just stayed on the line. That's more than you know, Vivian replied. 1 month became 2. Hadrian found himself thinking of her during the day, wondering what she was doing, mentally composing things to tell her when midnight came. He cleared his schedule for the hours after 12, an unprecedented move that had his second in command, a vampire named Lucian who had served him for a century, asking questions. You have been distracted, my king, Lucian observed during a council meeting. Is there a threat we should know about? No threat, Hadrian said shortly. Continue the report on the Manchester situation. But Lucian knew him too well. After the meeting, he lingered. You are not yourself lately. You seem lighter, less focused on court matters. I have not seen you like this since before Adelaide died. Adelaide, his sister. The wound that had never healed. I'm fine, Hadrian said. You are many things, my king, but fine is not one of them. You have been different for 2 months now. You smile at odd moments. You have stopped attending the dawn strategy sessions. Lucien's pale eyes narrowed. You have met someone. I have not met anyone. But you have encountered someone. Lucien tilted his head. Human? Hadrian's silence was answer enough. Dangerous, Lucian said softly. You know this. I am not doing anything dangerous. I am merely talking to someone. The king does not merely talk to humans. Every interaction is a risk. You could slip, reveal too much, become attached to something temporary. Lucien's expression softened slightly. I do not wish to see you hurt again. I am not hurt. I am not at risk. I am in complete control. Lucien bowed, but his skepticism was clear. As you say, my king. That night, when Vivian called, Hadrian almost told her the truth. Almost said that he was not a crisis counselor, that he was something she would not believe, that every night he spent talking to her was a violation of the separation between their worlds. Instead, he said, "Tell me about your day," and she did. She told him about the patron at the library, who insisted the Dewey Decimal System was a government conspiracy, about the lunch she had eaten in the park, about the way the light came through her apartment window in the late afternoon. She painted her human life in words, and Hadrian listened like a man starving for something he had not known he missed. "What about you?" she asked eventually. "You never talk about your days much. They're not interesting. I find that hard to believe. You're interesting. Therefore your days must be interesting by extension." He smiled despite himself. Flawless logic. "I'm serious, Hadrian. I tell you everything and you're just this voice, this wonderful, steady voice that I've come to depend on, but I don't know anything about you. What do you look like? What do you do when you're not on the phone with me? Do you have hobbies, favorite foods, pet peeves? Too many questions. All of them dangerous." "I'm tall," he said slowly, "pale. I have been told I look severe, hair color, white, like white blonde or white. Every vampire's hair turned white after the change. Part of the transformation, that's unusual," Vivian said. "But I bet it looks distinguished. It makes me look older than I am." "How old are you?" Another dangerous question. "Old enough to know better than most things," she laughed. "Cryptic. All right, keep your secrets. What about hobbies?" "I read. History, mostly. And I ride horses when I can." That much was true. The stable beneath the castle housed a dozen pure black horses, bred for night riding. Hadrian spent hours riding through the underground territories, inspecting borders, thinking. "Horses," Vivian repeated. "That's romantic, practical, romantically practical." He could hear the smile in her voice. "What else?" Favorite food, he almost laughed. He had not eaten food in 3 centuries. Blood sustained him, and while he could consume human food for appearances, it held no appeal. "I'm particular about what I consume." Picky eater, got it. "Pet peeves?" Disloyalty, carelessness, people who waste time they don't have. "Dark," Vivian observed, "but fair." "You know what I think, Hadrian?" "What?" "I think you're lonely. I think you've been lonely for a long time, and these calls are helping you as much as they're helping me." She was right, dangerously, terrifyingly right. "Perhaps," he admitted. "Then we're helping each other." Vivian said softly, "That's nice, that feels equal." Hadrian wanted to tell her there was nothing equal about it, that he was an immortal king and she was a human woman whose life would flicker past in the blink of his existence. That he was using power and privilege to speak with her under false pretenses. That he was becoming attached to someone he could never have, not without destroying what made her herself. But he said none of that. He just listened as she talked about the book she was reading and told himself he would end this soon. Before it became something he could not walk away from, he was lying to himself. It already was. At the 3-month mark, something changed. Vivian's voice on the phone was tight, controlled in a way that reminded him of their first call. "What's wrong?" Hadrian asked immediately. "Nothing. I'm fine." "You're not fine, tell me," she exhaled shakily. "I saw someone today, outside the library when I was leaving work. A man I used to know. He was just standing across the street watching." Every protective instinct Hadrian possessed, honed over centuries of guarding territory and people, roared to life. "Who is he?" "His name is Marcus. We dated before my ex-fiancée. It ended badly. He didn't want it to end. He showed up at my work a few times, sent messages, that kind of thing. It eventually stopped, but seeing him today brought it all back." "Did he approach you?" "No, he just watched." "But, Hadrian, I had a restraining order against him 2 years ago. He's not supposed to be anywhere near me." Hadrian's hand tightened on the phone. "Did you call the police? And tell them what? That I saw him on a public street? The restraining order expired 6 months ago. He didn't do anything illegal. He frightened you. That's enough." "It's not enough for the law." Vivian's voice cracked slightly. "I'm probably overreacting. It's probably nothing. It's not nothing if it scares you." Hadrian stood, pacing his study. "Where are you now?" "Home, locked in. I checked all the windows. I'm safe." She did not sound safe. She sounded like someone trying to convince herself. "Stay on the line with me," Hadrian said. "All night if you need to. I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking. I'm offering." They talked until dawn, but Hadrian's mind was elsewhere. He was thinking about how easy it would be to find her. He had her name, Vivian Harper. She worked at a library, had just moved to a month-to-month sublet, was somewhere within reach of where she had lived with her ex-fiancé. London was a large city, but Hadrian had resources that made finding one human woman laughably simple. He had not done it. Had not invaded her privacy that way. Had kept their relationship confined to the phone line because it was safer for both of them. But now there was a threat. A man who had stalked her before and was apparently back. Hadrian could find him. Could ensure he never bothered Vivian again. Could do what the human legal system apparently could not. After Vivian hung up exhausted and somewhat calmer, Hadrian summoned Lucien. "I need you to find someone," he said. "Human, name is Vivian Harper, works as a research librarian in London, recently moved into a sublet." Lucien's expression did not change, but his eyes sharpened. "The one you have been talking to?" "Yes." "Why do we need to find her, my king?" "Because there is a man threatening her, and I intend to stop him." "You could stop talking to her instead," Lucien pointed out carefully. "Remove yourself from the situation entirely. Let the human world handle its own problems. I am not stopping." Hadrian's voice dropped into the register he used for commands, the tone that made even ancient vampires bow. "Find her, discreetly. I want to know where she lives, where she works, and I want information on a man named Marcus who has a history of stalking her. Last name unknown, but it should not be hard to find given the restraining order she mentioned." Lucien bowed. "As you wish, my king." By the next evening, Hadrian had a file. Vivian Harper, age 28, research librarian at the University of London. She lived in a sublet in Bloomsbury, a small apartment on the 3rd floor of a converted Victorian. She had graduated top of her class in library science, had been engaged to a man named David Crawford for 2 years, and had indeed filed a restraining order against Marcus Lowe 3 years prior for stalking and harassment. Marcus Lowe, age 34, investment banker. History of complaints from multiple women, none of which had resulted in charges. The restraining order from Vivian had expired, as she had said. He lived in Kensington, drove an expensive car, and according to Hadrian's intelligence network, had been seen near the University of London library multiple times in the past 2 weeks. Hadrian studied the photograph of Marcus. Average height, conventionally attractive, the kind of human who used charm as a weapon, the kind of man who did not hear the word no. He would hear it from Hadrian, but first he needed to understand the scope of the threat. Hadrian assigned watchers, discreet vampires loyal to him, to keep an eye on Vivian without her knowledge. To track Marcus, to report any concerning behavior. The reports came quickly. Marcus had been following Vivian, not every day but often enough. He had been in the coffee shop where she got her morning coffee, had walked past her apartment building, had sat in the library, watching her work from a reading table tucked in the corner. Hadrian felt rage, pure and cold. This human man thought he had the right to stalk a woman who had made clear she wanted nothing to do with him. Thought he could intimidate her with his presence, wear down her resistance, force his way back into her life. He would learn otherwise. Vivian called at midnight, as always. "He was at the library again today," she said without preamble. "Marcus, he sat in the reading room for 3 hours. He didn't check out any books, he just sat there. When I walked past, he smiled at me. Did you report it? To who? He's not breaking any laws. He's allowed to use the library. He's allowed to smile." She sounded exhausted. "I'm starting to feel crazy, like maybe I'm imagining the threat. Maybe he really is just there coincidentally." "You're not imagining it," Hadrian said firmly. "Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it is wrong. I wish I could just make him go away." "What if you could?" Vivian laughed bitterly. "Unless you're secretly a hitman on the side of your crisis line work, I don't see how. Not a hitman. But I have resources, connections. If you wanted me to look into him, to see if there are ways to pressure him into leaving you alone, I could do that." Silence on the other end. "Then you would do that for me?" "Yes, why? You don't even know me." "Not really. We've never even met." Hadrian closed his eyes. "I know your voice. I know you take your coffee with too much sugar because you like the sweetness. I know you organize your books by color because it makes you happy even though it drives your librarian colleagues insane. I know you're terrified of being alone but you're too proud to admit it. I know you cry during sad movies but pretend it's allergies. I know you, Vivian. Perhaps not everything but enough." "Hadrian." Her voice was soft, wondering. "Have you been falling in love with me?" The question hung in the air between them, carried on phone signals across London. He should lie, should deflect, should end this before it went further. "Yes," he said simply. "I think I've been falling in love with you too," Vivian whispered. "Which is insane because we've never met. Because you're just a voice on the phone. But you're the best part of my day, the only thing I look forward to. When midnight comes, I feel like I can breathe again because I know I'll hear your voice." Hadrian's heart, which had not beat in 3 centuries, felt like it was trying to remember how. "Vivian, we should meet," she said suddenly. "I know you like the anonymity, and maybe there's a reason you don't want to meet, and that's fine. But I need to see you. I need to know if this is real or if I'm just projecting onto a stranger." "It's real," Hadrian said. "But meeting is complicated." "Why? Are you married? In witness protection? Horribly disfigured." She tried to joke, but he could hear the hurt underneath. "None of those things. But my life is not simple, and bringing you into it could be dangerous. More dangerous than a stalker who knows where I work and live." She had a point. Hadrian made a decision. Let me handle Marcus first. Let me make sure you're safe. Then we'll talk about meeting. You promise? I promise. After they hung up, Hadrian prepared for a hunt. Not the kind he usually engaged in, where prey was willing and compensated and the feeding was a transaction. This was the old kind, the predator kind. The kind that reminded him what he was under the expensive suits and civilized council meetings. He found Marcus Lowe 3 nights later, leaving a bar in Soho at 2 in the morning. Hadrian stepped out of the shadows into his path, and the human nearly walked into him before stumbling back. Sorry, mate, didn't see you there. Marcotte tried to step around him. Hadrian moved to block him. Marcus Lowe. The man's eyes narrowed. Do I know you? No, but I know you. I know you've been following Vivian Harper. I know you sit in her library. I know you stand outside her apartment. I know you had a restraining order against you that you violated multiple times before it expired. Marcus's expression shifted from confusion to wariness. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. Hadrian stepped closer, and something in his movement, in the predatory grace of it, made Marcus step back. You're going to stop. You're going to leave London. You're going to never speak to, look at, or think about Vivian Harper again. Who the fuck are you, her boyfriend? Marcus tried to sound tough, but his heart rate was rising. Hadrian could hear it, smell the fear starting to seep through the bravado. I'm someone you do not want as an enemy. Hadrian let his eyes shift slightly, the pupils elongating, the irises catching the streetlight like an animal's. A small use of his power, just enough to trigger primal human fear. Leave. Tonight. I'll know if you don't. You're threatening me. Marcus pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. Hadrian moved faster than human eyes could track, plucking the phone from Marcus's hand and crushing it to pieces. The plastic and glass crumpled like paper in his grip. Marcus made a small, terrified sound. Consider this your only warning, Hadrian said quietly. Disappear, or I will make you disappear permanently. He dropped the crushed phone and walked away, leaving Marcus standing on the street corner, trembling. It was not a permanent solution. Hadrian knew that. Scaring humans worked in the short term, but fear faded. Marcus might leave for a while, but he might come back, might escalate. Men like him did not respond well to threats, so Hadrian did more. He used his connections in the human world, the lawyers and politicians and business people who owed favors to the vampire king whether they knew it or not. Marcus Lowe's finances were quietly audited, and irregularities were found, serious ones, the kind that resulted in investigations and frozen accounts. His employer was given an anonymous tip about misconduct. His landlord received a very generous offer to buy out the building, with the caveat that current tenants not be offered lease renewals. Within a week, Marcus Lowe's comfortable life was falling apart. He was suspended from work pending investigation. He was facing eviction. His bank accounts were locked, and through it all, Hadrian's people made sure he knew, subtly, that all of this would go away if he simply left London and never came back. Marcus left. Took a job in Edinburgh that was arranged through one of Hadrian's proxies, a position that would keep him busy and watched. He would not be bothering Vivian again. Hadrian confirmed it all before calling Vivian at midnight, 2 weeks after their conversation about meeting. He's gone, Hadrian said when she answered. Marcus, he left London. He won't be coming back. How do you know? I made certain of it. Vivian was quiet. What did you do, Hadrian? Nothing illegal. Nothing violent. I simply made it clear that London was no longer a comfortable place for him, and provided incentive for him to relocate. You really did that for me, yes. I don't know whether to be grateful or terrified of you. Hadrian smiled slightly. Both would be appropriate. We had a deal, Vivian said. You promised that after Marcus was handled, we would talk about meeting. I remember. I want to meet you, Hadrian. I need to, please. He could refuse, should refuse, could end this now, fade back into his world and let her move forward with her human life. But he had fallen in love with her voice, with her strength, with the way she rebuilt herself piece by piece and shared it all with him. He had fallen in love with a woman he had never seen, and the need to see her, to be in the same space as her, was overwhelming. All right, he said. But there are things you need to know first. Things about me, tell me. Not over the phone when we meet. I'll explain everything, and you can decide if you want to continue this or walk away. I'll give you that choice, with full information. You're making it sound ominous. It's simply complicated, okay? Vivian took a breath. Where and when? Hadrian thought carefully. It needed to be private, somewhere they could talk without interruption, somewhere he could reveal himself without risking exposure. There's a park in Bloomsbury, Queen Square. Do you know it? Yes, it's near my apartment. Meet me there tomorrow night. Midnight. Of course, midnight. She laughed softly. I don't think I've ever heard your voice in daylight. You won't tomorrow either. Mysterious as always. What will you be wearing? How will I recognize you? I'll recognize you, Hadrian said. He had studied her photograph in the file. Knew her face better than she knew. I'll find you. This feels like something out of a movie, Vivian said. The mysterious stranger I've been talking to for months, finally meeting me in a dark park at midnight. If it feels unsafe, we can arrange something else. No, I trust you. Hadrian, you've had months to hurt me if that was your intention. You protected me instead. I trust you. Her trust was a weight and a gift. Hadrian held it carefully. The next night he dressed simply. Black pants, black shirt, a long coat against the autumn chill he did not feel. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw what he always saw. Pale skin that had not seen sun in 300 years. White hair that marked him as other. Eyes that were too sharp and features that were too perfect. He looked like what he was. Inhuman, powerful, dangerous. He arrived at Queen Square before midnight and waited in the shadows, watching. The park was small, mostly empty this late. A few people walked dogs. A couple sat on a bench. And then he saw her, Vivian Harper, walking into the park with her hands shoved in her jacket pockets, looking around nervously. She was shorter than he had imagined, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and glasses that caught the streetlight. She wore jeans and boots and looked entirely beautifully human. Hadrian stepped out of the shadows. She saw him and stopped. He watched her eyes widen, taking him in. The height, the pale skin, the white hair. He waited for fear, for rejection, for the logical human response to something clearly not human. Instead, she smiled. Hadrian? His name in her voice spoken aloud instead of through a phone. It struck him harder than he expected. Vivian. She walked toward him and he stood very still, letting her approach. She stopped a few feet away, studying his face. You're beautiful, she said softly. Terrifying but beautiful. You're not afraid. I'm absolutely terrified. But not of you, she tilted her head. You're not human, are you? Direct. He appreciated that. No, what are you? Can we sit? This conversation will take time. They sat on a bench far enough apart that they were not touching, close enough that he could hear her heartbeat, steady and strong. Hadrian had thought about how to explain this, how to ease her into the truth. But Vivian was smart and brave, and she deserved directness. I'm a vampire, he said. I have been for 300 years. I rule the vampire territories of Northern Europe. The phone you called that first night was a private line that should not have connected to anything. But somehow it connected to me, and I answered because your voice reminded me of someone I failed to save a long time ago. Vivian stared at him. He waited for the disbelief, the laugh, the accusation that he was insane. That explains the pale skin and white hair, she said finally. And the fact that you only ever talk to me at night. And the vaguely archaic way you phrase things sometimes. And how you manage to make Marcus disappear so thoroughly. You believe me, I'm a research librarian, Hadrian. I've read every vampire myth and legend ever recorded. I know the lore, and looking at you, everything makes sense. She reached out slowly, telegraphing the movement, and touched his hand. His skin was cold. Vampires did not generate body heat. She did not pull away. You're freezing, she observed. I have no pulse, no body heat, no need for food or air or sleep. I drink blood to survive, though I don't kill. The modern world has made it possible to feed ethically, with willing donors who are compensated and cared for. He was giving her every reason to run. I cannot go into sunlight. I have strength and speed far beyond humans. I can compel minds, though I have never done so to you. Everything we've had has been real, without any influence. I know it's been real. Vivian's hand stayed on his. I could feel it every night. I just didn't know exactly what I was feeling it with. You're not afraid, he repeated, searching her face. I'm processing. She took a breath. You're a vampire king, an actual king, yes. Do you have a castle under London? There's an entire world beneath the city, territories, courts, politics. We've been here for thousands of years, hidden. That's incredible. Her eyes lit up with the curiosity he had heard in her voice so many times. I have about 1,000,000 questions. You can ask me anything. Why did you keep talking to me that first night? You could have just told me I had the wrong number. Hadrian looked down at her hand on his, so small, so warm, so alive. Because you sounded like you were standing on an edge, and the last time I heard someone sound like that, I failed to talk them back. My sister, Adelaide. She was newly turned, unstable, frightened of eternity. I talked to her all night, used every argument I had. At dawn, she walked into the sun. She died, and I learned that sometimes talking is not enough. But you tried anyway, Vivian said softly. When I called, you tried anyway. I did. And you've been trying every night since, keeping me here, keeping me going. She moved closer to him on the bench. You saved me, Hadrian. Do you understand that? I was drowning and you threw me a line. You saved yourself. I just stayed on the phone. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that. She smiled, and it transformed her face. So what now? That depends on you. You know what I am. You know the complications that come with being involved with someone like me. This can't be a normal relationship. There will be secrecy, danger, things you can't tell anyone. My world is not safe for humans, Amen. Your world kept me safer than the human one did, Vivian pointed out. You handled Marcus when the police couldn't. I bent laws doing it. Used power and influence that humans don't have. It's not the same. I don't care if it's the same. I care that it worked. She turned to face him fully. I've been in love with your voice for months, Hadrian. Now I've seen your face, heard the truth about you, and nothing has changed except that I understand you better. I don't want to walk away, do you? No, he admitted. I don't want you to walk away. I want to keep you. Want to hear your voice every night for as long as you'll give me. Want to know everything about you. Want to protect you and make you happy and give you everything you need. That's a very vampire king answer, Vivian said, but she was smiling. Possessive and intense. I've been told I'm both of those things. I think I like it. She leaned in slightly. Can you kiss? Or is that not a vampire thing? We can kiss. Then kiss me, Hadrian. I've been imagining it for months. He cupped her face in his hands, careful of his strength, and kissed her. She tasted like coffee and mint and human warmth, and when she kissed him back, fearless, it felt like the first real thing he had experienced in 200 years. When they pulled apart, Vivian was breathless and he was steadier than he had been in centuries. Wow, she said. Agreed. I want to see it, your world. The castle, the court, all of it. It's not what you're imagining. It's beautiful, but it's also harsh. Vampire politics are brutal. Then you'll protect me, she said it with complete confidence. Won't you? With my life. Then show me. Hadrian took her to his world. They entered through a hidden door in an abandoned tube station, descending stairs that went down and down into the earth. The passages were lit with electric lights now, modernized, but the stone was ancient. Vivian held his hand and looked at everything with wide eyes. The castle sprawled beneath London, a vast complex of rooms and halls carved from rock and reinforced over centuries. Hadrian led her through the public areas first, the great hall with its vaulted ceilings, the library that rivaled any human collection, the gardens that grew under artificial light. Vampires they passed stopped and stared, their king walking hand in hand with a human woman. Unheard of, Lucian appeared in their path, his expression carefully neutral. My king. You bring a guest. This is Vivian Harper, Hadrian said. She is under my protection. Inform the court. Of course. Lucian bowed to Vivian. My lady, welcome, thank you. Vivian looked around. This is amazing. How many vampires live here? In the London territory? Several thousand, Lucian replied. Worldwide our numbers are greater, though we remain a fraction of humanity. And you all follow Hadrian? In this territory, yes. He is our king. Lucian's gaze shifted to Hadrian. May I speak with you privately, my king? Hadrian turned to Vivian. Will you wait here? I'll only be a moment. I'll be fine. Go. He walked a short distance away with Lucian, who wasted no time. You brought her here. You revealed our world to a human. You are holding her hand like she is your consort. Hadrian, what are you doing? I am following my heart for the first time in 2 centuries. Your heart will get you killed. Get her killed. The court will not accept a human. The court will accept what I tell them to accept. And when she grows old, when she dies in 50 years and you continue, have you thought about that? Hadrian had thought about it. Had thought about little else. There are options. Lucian's eyes widened. You would turn her? Create a vampire if she wanted it. Not now. Not until she has had time to truly understand what it means. But yes, I would give her the choice. This is madness. This is life, Hadrian said quietly. For 200 years I have been existing. Ruling, yes. Functioning, but not living. She makes me feel alive again. I will not give that up. Lucian stared at him for a long moment, then sighed. Then I will support you, as I always have. But be careful, my king. Love makes us vulnerable, I know. Hadrian returned to Vivian, who was examining a tapestry depicting a vampire battle from the 16th century. Everything all right? Politics, he said. Lucian is concerned about the implications of me bringing you here. Because I'm human. Because you're human and I'm making it clear you're important to me. That creates complications. I don't want to cause problems for you. You're not. You're causing me to finally address problems I've been avoiding. He held out his hand. Come. Let me show you my private chambers. His rooms were at the heart of the castle, a suite of interconnected spaces that blended old-world luxury with modern comfort. Heavy curtains, dark wood furniture, shelves full of books, a fireplace that burned low. Vivian walked through slowly, taking it all in. You live here alone? Yes, it's beautiful, but it's lonely, it has been. Hadrian watched her trail her fingers over the spines of his books. It feels less lonely now. She turned to him. I don't want to go home. Is that crazy? I've been here for less than an hour and I already don't want to leave. You can stay, tonight or longer. Whatever you want. What I want is to stay with you. Vivian crossed to him. But I have a job, a life up there. I can't just disappear. I wouldn't ask you to. You can have both, your human life and time here, with me. I'll work around your schedule. You're a king. You can't just work around my library hours. I've been king for 100 years. I can delegate. Hadrian pulled her close. Tell me what you need, Vivian. Tell me what would make you happy. This, she said simply. You, time together. Getting to know each other in person the way we did on the phone. Building something real. Then that's what we'll do. They fell into a new pattern. Vivian kept her job, her apartment, her human life, but every night she came to the castle. Hadrian would meet her at the hidden entrance, and they would descend together into his world. They would have dinner, which he did not eat but sat with her while she did, and talk the way they had on the phone but face to face now, touching, real. The court adjusted. Slowly, warily, but they adjusted. Hadrian made it clear that Vivian was not a curiosity or a meal or a temporary distraction. She was his, and anyone who disrespected her would answer to him. Most vampires were wise enough not to test that. Vivian thrived in the underground world. She spent hours in the library, reading vampire histories that no human had seen. She asked questions that made the scholars scramble to answer. She treated everyone with courtesy and interest, and gradually vampires who had been skeptical began to warm to her. "She's good for you," Lucian admitted one evening, watching Hadrian watch Vivian debate some point of vampire law with one of the court advisors. "You smile more, you're less harsh in counsel. The court has noticed. I'm happy," Hadrian said simply. "I can see that." Lucian paused. "Have you discussed the future with her? What happens long term?" "Not yet. We're still learning each other. Don't wait too long. These questions don't become easier with time." Hadrian knew he was right, but he was afraid to push, afraid to ask Vivian to make a choice that would change everything, afraid she would say no. The choice came up on its own 6 months after their first meeting in the park. They were in Hadrian's chambers, Vivian curled against him on the sofa while he read aloud from a book of poetry. It was peaceful, domestic, the kind of moment he had never imagined having. "Hadrian," Vivian said suddenly, "how long do relationships between vampires and humans usually last?" He closed the book. "There aren't many. Most vampires don't involve themselves with humans beyond feeding. The rare ones who do tend to end when the human grows old or when the vampire moves on." "How long was the longest?" "There was a vampire in the 17th century who loved a human woman. He stayed with her until she died of old age, then walked into the sun the next day. 53 years. Vivian was quiet. "That's not very long for an immortal." "No, do you think about that? About me getting old while you stay the same, every day?" She sat up to look at him. "What do you think about it?" "I think I'm selfish enough to want every day I can have with you, even knowing it will end. I think I should probably let you go now. Let you find a human man and have a normal life. I think I won't do that because I love you too much." He met her eyes. "I think there's an option we haven't discussed, and I'm afraid to bring it up because I don't want you to feel pressured." "Turning me," Vivian said. "Yes, I've thought about it too." She took his hand. "I've been reading everything I can find about the turning process, about what it means to be a vampire. The strengths, the weaknesses, the changes. And I'm not ready yet. I'm only 28. There are things I want to do as a human still. But Hadrian, I don't want to grow old and leave you. I don't want this to end in 50 years or 20 years or however long I have. So I think eventually, yes, I would want to turn, but not yet." Relief and fear warred in Hadrian's chest. "When? I don't know. A few years? Long enough to be sure this is what I want, but not so long that I'm already old." She cupped his face. "Is that okay? Can you wait? I've waited 300 years for you. I can wait a few more, and you'll still want me? When I'm ready?" "Vivian, I will want you until the stars burn out." She kissed him, and he held her like something precious. Time passed. Vivian celebrated her 29th birthday, then her 30th. She quit her job at the university library and took a position managing the vampire archives, work that fascinated her and kept her in Hadrian's world more often. She moved out of her sublet and into the castle full-time, claiming rooms adjacent to Hadrian's that she filled with her books and plants and warmth. The court accepted her, not just as their king's human companion, but as someone valuable in her own right. She mediated disputes with a fairness that impressed even the eldest vampires. She organized the archives with an efficiency that had been lacking for decades. She made Hadrian laugh, made him softer, made him better. 2 years after they met, Vivian brought up the turning again. "I'm ready," she said one night. "I've lived as a human. I've done the things I wanted to do. I'm ready to live as a vampire now, with you. Are you certain? Once it's done, there's no going back." "I'm certain. I love you, Hadrian. I want eternity with you. I want to be your equal, not something fragile you have to protect from the sun. I want to be strong and fast and immortal. I want everything you are." "The turning is painful," he warned. 3 days of agony while the venom rewrites your body. "I will be with you the entire time. But I cannot make it easier." "I know, I've read about it," she smiled. "I trust you," they prepared. Hadrian explained the process in detail, made sure she understood every aspect. Lucian arranged for the best medical support they had, vampires who specialized in turnings. The court was informed that their king would be indisposed for 3 days while his consort underwent the change. The night they chose, Hadrian took Vivian to his chambers and locked the door. "Last chance," he said. "If you have any doubts, tell me now." "No doubts. Do it." He bit her wrist first, drinking enough blood to weaken her. Then he bit his own wrist and held it to her mouth. "Drink." Vivian drank his blood, ancient and powerful, and Hadrian felt the moment the venom entered her system. Her eyes widened, and then the pain began. She screamed. Hadrian held her through it, murmuring words of comfort that did nothing to ease the agony but reminded her she was not alone. Her body convulsed as the venom spread, rewriting human cells into vampire ones. Her temperature spiked and then plummeted. Her heart raced and then began to slow. Hadrian did not leave her side. For 3 days he held her, talked to her, reminded her to breathe through the pain. He had turned vampires before, but never someone he loved. Never someone whose agony felt like his own. On the 3rd day, the pain stopped. Vivian's heart beat once more and then went still. Her breathing ceased. For a moment she was death, and Hadrian's own dead heart clenched. Then her eyes opened, no longer brown, but the pale silver of a new vampire, Hadrian. Her voice was the same, everything else had changed. She was stronger now, faster. Her senses were heightened. She could hear the movement of vampires in distant corridors, smell the blood that sustained them, see in the dark, and she was beautiful. Her skin had paled to porcelain, her hair had lightened to white, and she moved with a grace that was purely vampire. Hadrian helped her sit up. "How do you feel? Everything is so loud, so bright, so much." She looked at her hands, flexing fingers that could now crush stone. "This is incredible. The adjustment takes time. You'll learn to control it." Vivian looked up at him, and her smile was radiant. "We have time now, all the time in the world." He kissed her, his queen now in truth if not yet in title. The court celebrated. A turning was always significant, but the king's consort becoming a vampire was unprecedented. Hadrian threw a feast, presenting Vivian to the assembled vampires as his equal and partner. "This is Vivian Greymoore," he announced, giving her his family name. "My queen, you will accord her the same respect and loyalty you give me." The court bowed. Vivian stood beside Hadrian, regal and confident in a gown of midnight blue, and accepted their acknowledgement with grace. Later, in their private chambers, she laughed. "Queen Vivian, that's going to take some getting used to." "You were always a queen to me," Hadrian said. "This just makes it official. We should get married. Properly. With vows and everything. Vampires don't typically marry. Then we'll start a new tradition." Vivian pulled him close. "I want to marry you, Hadrian Greymoore. I want to stand in front of your court and our friends and promise you forever. Will you marry me?" He had ruled kingdoms, won wars, survived centuries. But this question from this woman unmade him. "Yes," he said. "Yes, I'll marry you." They were wed a month later in the great hall of the castle, surrounded by vampires who witnessed their king bind himself to another in a ceremony that blended vampire tradition with human sentiment. Vivian wore white because she wanted to, and Hadrian wore black because he always did. They exchanged vows written themselves, promises of eternity and love and partnership. Lucian officiated because he had been with Hadrian the longest and had earned the honor. "Do you, Hadrian Greymoore, take Vivian Harper as your wife, your queen, your partner for all eternity?" "I do, and do you, Vivian Harper, take Hadrian Greymoore as your husband, your king, your partner for all eternity?" "I do." "Then by the power vested in me by this court and the laws of our kind, I declare you married, bound for eternity. What death has already claimed, let nothing separate." They kissed and the court erupted in applause. Years passed, decades. Vivian thrived as a vampire, her strength and intelligence making her a formidable queen. She ruled beside Hadrian, handling matters of the court with the same skill she had once used to organize libraries. Together, they were stronger than either had been alone. They traveled, seeing the world in darkness. They met other vampire rulers, forged alliances, settled disputes. They protected their territory and their people. But their favorite times were still the quiet ones. Nights spent in their chambers reading together or simply talking. They still called them their midnight conversations, a reference to the phone calls that had started everything. 50 years after Vivian's turning, they stood on a balcony overlooking the underground territories, watching the artificial lights of their city. "Do you ever regret it?" Hadrian asked. "Giving up your human life?" "Never," Vivian said immediately. "Do you regret answering the phone that night?" "It was the best decision I ever made." She leaned against him. "I called the wrong number at midnight and you answered. You could have hung up, you should have hung up, but you didn't." "I couldn't," Hadrian admitted. "Something about your voice. I had to hear what happened next. And now you're stuck hearing it forever." "Forever isn't long enough." Vivian tilted her face up to kiss him, and Hadrian held his wife, his queen, his eternity, and felt grateful for every moment from that first midnight call to this one. They had found each other across impossible odds. A wrong number connecting a dying woman and a vampire king who had forgotten how to hope. They had built a love that survived revelation and transformation, that grew stronger with each passing year, and they would continue forward, together through all the centuries to come. Two people who had been alone and lost, who had found in each other the thing they needed most, a voice in the darkness, a hand to hold, A love that would outlast time itself. The phone that had started it all sat in a place of honor in their chambers, unplugged and silent, a relic of their beginning. They did not need it anymore. They had each other, in person, in truth, in forever. But sometimes, late at night, when the castle slept and the world above continued on without them, they would sit together and remember those first conversations. The vulnerability, the hope, the slowly building connection that had changed everything. "Thank you for not hanging up," Vivian would say. "Thank you for calling," Hadrian would reply. And in the safety of their eternity, surrounded by the life they had built together, they would hold each other and know that every wrong turn, every mistake, every moment of pain had been worth it to end up here, together, forever. Exactly as it was always meant to be.